The PTA meeting was supposed to be a routine affair, but Karen knew she couldn't miss this one. Word had spread like wildfire through the school's gossip circles about the new single mom, Jenna, and Karen had a plan to put her in her place once and for all. As Karen strutted into the crowded auditorium, her eyes immediately locked onto Jenna, who was sitting quietly in the back corner. Perfect, Karen thought to herself, smoothing down her perfectly coiffed hair. She made her way to the front, clearing her throat obnoxiously to get everyone's attention. "Excuse me, everyone," Karen began, her voice dripping with feigned concern. "I have a very important issue I'd like to address today. It's come to my attention that one of our fellow parents, Jenna, has been, well, let's just say, not exactly living up to the standards we expect here at Westbrook Elementary." Jenna's head snapped up, her eyes wide with surprise and alarm. The other parents exchanged confused murmurs, unsure of where Karen was going with this. "You see," Karen continued, "I've noticed that Jenna has been consistently late to drop off and pick up, which is highly disruptive to the school's operations. Not to mention, her child, little Timmy, always seems to be wearing the same clothes day after day. Now, I know times are tough, but we have a responsibility to ensure all our children are well cared for and presentable." Karen paused, allowing her words to sink in. She could see the resentment building on Jenna's face, but the single mom remained silent, her jaw clenched tightly. "And let's not forget the incident last week, where Timmy was caught taking extra snacks from the cafeteria," Karen added, shaking her head in mock disappointment. "Clearly, Jenna is struggling to provide for her child, and I believe it's our duty as a community to step in and help." The room erupted in whispers and murmurs, some parents nodding in agreement, while others looked visibly uncomfortable. Jenna's face flushed with embarrassment and anger, and she stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "How dare you?" Jenna hissed, her voice quivering with emotion. "You have no right to stand here and judge me or my child. You have no idea what we've been through, what I've sacrificed to make sure Timmy has a roof over his head and food on the table." Karen opened her mouth to retort, but Jenna cut her off, her eyes blazing with fury. "I work 2 jobs, 80 hours a week, just to make ends meet. I'm doing the best I can, and Timmy is a good, kind-hearted boy who deserves better than your condescending remarks." The other parents sat in stunned silence, unsure of how to react. Some looked uncomfortable, while others seemed to be reconsidering their initial reactions to Karen's accusations. Jenna turned to the rest of the room, her voice trembling with emotion. "I know times are tough, and we all have our struggles, but that doesn't give anyone the right to shame or belittle another parent. We're all in this together, and we should be lifting each other up, not tearing each other down." The auditorium erupted in a resounding round of applause, and Karen suddenly found herself the center of unwanted attention. As Jenna sat back down, the PTA president, a kind-looking woman named Mrs. Wilkins, stood up, her expression grave. "Thank you, Jenna, for your honesty and courage. I think we all need to take a long, hard look at ourselves and our community and see how we can do better to support families in need." Karen's face flushed with embarrassment as she realized her plan had backfired spectacularly. As the meeting continued, she sank lower and lower in her seat, wishing she could disappear. As the PTA meeting drew to a close, Karen could feel the weight of dozens of judgmental stares boring into the back of her head. She had been completely blindsided by Jenna's impassioned response, and the overwhelming support from the other parents. Clearly, her plan to publicly humiliate the single mom had backfired in the most spectacular way possible. Determined to salvage some shred of dignity, Karen waited until most of the other parents had filed out before approaching Mrs. Wilkins, the PTA president. "Mrs. Wilkins, a word?" Karen said, forcing a saccharine smile. The older woman turned to face Karen, her expression unreadable. "What can I do for you, Karen?" "Well, I just wanted to apologize for the disturbance earlier," Karen said, her voice dripping with false sincerity. I was simply trying to address some concerns about Jenna's parenting, but I suppose I went about it the wrong way." Mrs. Wilkins arched a single eyebrow, clearly unimpressed. "Concerns? Is that what you call publicly shaming a struggling single mother in front of the entire PTA?" Karen's face flushed with embarrassment, and she quickly backtracked. "I didn't mean it like that. I was just trying to help, you see. Jenna's situation is rather unconventional, and I thought the community should be aware of it." "Unconventional?" Mrs. Wilkins scoffed. "Last I checked, being a hard-working single parent trying to make ends meet wasn't a crime. In fact, I'd say Jenna is doing an admirable job, all things considered." Karen opened her mouth to argue, but Mrs. Wilkins held up a hand, silencing her. "Listen, Karen, I know you have a certain image to uphold, but that doesn't give you the right to treat others with such disrespect. Jenna is part of this community, and we should be supporting her, not judging her." "But," Karen started, only to be cut off again. "No buts. I suggest you take some time to reflect on your actions and how they affect those around you. And if you ever pull a stunt like that again, you can forget about being a part of this PTA." With that, Mrs. Wilkins turned on her heel and strode away, leaving a stunned and humiliated Karen in her wake. As Karen made her way to her car, her mind was racing. She couldn't believe the PTA president had essentially threatened her, and the thought of being excluded from the school's social circles was too much to bear. "This isn't over," Karen muttered under her breath, her hands clenching the steering wheel. "I'll show that Jenna and her little brat who's really in charge around here." With a determined glint in her eye, Karen started her car and pulled out of the parking lot, already plotting her next move. The next few days were a whirlwind for Jenna. After her confrontation with Karen at the PTA meeting, word had quickly spread throughout the school community about the incident. To her surprise, Jenna found herself the recipient of an outpouring of support and kindness from the other parents. Several moms had approached her in the school pickup line, offering to help with carpools or bring over home-cooked meals for her and Timmy. Even the usually aloof Mrs. Wilkins had taken Jenna aside and assured her that the PTA was there to support her however they could. Jenna was touched by the compassion and understanding she was receiving, a stark contrast to the judgmental attitudes she had faced in the past. Perhaps this community wasn't as cold and indifferent as she had once believed. But just as Jenna was beginning to feel a glimmer of hope, her world came crashing down once again. One morning, as she was rushing to get Timmy to school on time, she noticed a bright yellow envelope on her doorstep. Cautiously, she picked it up, her heart sinking as she recognized the emblem of the property management company that owned her apartment building. With trembling hands, Jenna tore open the envelope and scanned the contents. It was an eviction notice citing excessive noise complaints and failure to maintain the premises. Jenna's stomach twisted into knots as she realized this was undoubtedly Karen's doing. Quickly gathering Timmy and their meager belongings, Jenna raced to the school, tears streaming down her face. She needed to speak with Mrs. Wilkins immediately. Her family's future was hanging by a thread. As Jenna burst into the PTA president's office, Mrs. Wilkins took one look at her distraught expression and ushered her inside, shutting the door behind them. "Jenna, what's wrong?" the older woman asked, her brow furrowed with concern. Jenna took a deep, shaky breath and handed Mrs. Wilkins the eviction notice. "I just found this on my doorstep this morning. They're kicking us out, Mrs. Wilkins. I don't know what I'm going to do." Mrs. Wilkins scanned the document, her expression darkening. "This is outrageous. There's no way these complaints are legitimate. You've been nothing but a model tenant." Her eyes narrowed as realization dawned. "Karen." Jenna nodded miserably, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. "I should have known she wouldn't let it go. She's going to ruin us, Mrs. Wilkins. Timmy and I have nowhere else to go." The PTA president's face hardened with determination. "Not if I have anything to say about it." She reached across the desk and squeezed Jenna's hand reassuringly. We're going to fight this, Jenna. You and Timmy aren't going anywhere." As Jenna nodded gratefully, a plan began to form in Mrs. Wilkins' mind. Karen had gone too far this time, and she was about to learn a harsh lesson in the power of community. Karen was in a foul mood as she pulled into the Westbrook Elementary parking lot. Her plan to get Jenna and her troublesome son, Timmy, evicted had seemed foolproof, but now she was faced with the unwelcome news that Mrs. Wilkins, the PTA president, had intervened on their behalf. Unbelievable. Karen muttered under her breath, slamming her car door with unnecessary force. That woman has no idea what she's up against. As Karen strode into the school, her eyes immediately landed on Jenna, who was standing in the hallway chatting with a group of other parents. Jenna's eyes narrowed as she caught sight of Karen, and the two women locked gazes, the tension palpable. Ignoring the other parents, Karen sauntered over to Jenna, a malicious glint in her eye. Well, if it isn't the charity case of Westbrook Elementary," she sneered. "I hear you've been causing quite a stir, Jenna. Seems like you've got the whole PTA wrapped around your little finger." Jenna squared her shoulders, refusing to be intimidated. "What do you want, Karen? Haven't you done enough damage already?" "Oh, I'm just getting started," Karen replied, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "You see, I have a little proposition for you. Why don't you save us all the trouble and just transfer Timmy to a different school? I'm sure there are plenty of other underprivileged kids who could use the spot more than he does." Jenna's eyes widened in disbelief. "You can't be serious. Timmy has been at this school his whole life, and he's finally starting to feel at home. I won't just uproot him because you've decided you don't want him here." Karen clucked her tongue in mock sympathy. "Oh, Jenna, I'm afraid you don't have much of a choice. You see, I've been in touch with the property management company, and they're more than happy to expedite your eviction. Looks like you and Timmy will be homeless soon enough." Jenna's face drained of color, and she took a step back, her hands trembling. You did this. How could you be so heartless?" Karen's grin widened, her eyes gleaming with triumph. "It's simple, really. I'm just looking out for the best interests of this community. And frankly, Jenna, you and your son don't fit the mold." Before Jenna could respond, a loud voice boomed from behind them. "What's going on here?" Both women turned to find Mrs. Wilkins striding towards them, her expression thunderous. Karen's smile faltered, and she took a cautious step back. "Just having a friendly chat, Mrs. Wilkins," she said, her voice dripping with false innocence. "Friendly?" The PTA president scoffed. "It sounds to me like you're trying to bully a single mother out of this school. I won't stand for it, Karen." Karen opened her mouth to protest, but Mrs. Wilkins held up a hand, silencing her. "Save it. I've already spoken to the property management company, and they've agreed to rescind the eviction notice. Jenna and Timmy aren't going anywhere." Jenna's eyes widened with relief, and she mouthed a silent thank you to the older woman. Karen's face flushed with anger, and she glared at Jenna with undisguised hatred. "This isn't over," she hissed, before turning on her heel and storming off. As Karen disappeared down the hallway, Mrs. Wilkins turned to Jenna, a reassuring smile on her face. "Don't worry, Jenna. We're in this together. Karen may think she's in charge, but she's about to learn a valuable lesson. This community sticks together, no matter what." Jenna nodded gratefully, her heart swelling with a renewed sense of hope. With the PTA president on her side, maybe she and Timmy had a fighting chance after all. The following weeks were tense and uneasy for Karen. Ever since her confrontation with Jenna and Mrs. Wilkins, the PTA president had made it abundantly clear that she would not tolerate any further attempts to undermine the single mother. Karen's usual tactics of manipulation and gossip seemed to have little effect. Whenever she tried to sway the other parents against Jenna, they would simply shut her down, reminding her of the community's commitment to supporting one another. It was infuriating, and Karen could feel her grip on the school's social hierarchy slipping through her fingers. Determined to regain control, Karen began to hatch a new plan. If she couldn't turn the other parents against Jenna, perhaps she could find a way to discredit her directly. And she knew just the person who could help her achieve that goal. One afternoon, Karen made her way to the office of the school principal, Mr. Garrison. She had always maintained a cordial relationship with the man, often using her financial contributions to the PTA as leverage to get her way. Surely, he would be willing to lend a sympathetic ear to her concerns about Jenna. "Mr. Garrison, do you have a moment?" Karen asked, flashing the principal her most charming smile. "Of course, Karen," Mr. Garrison replied, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. "What can I do for you?" Karen took a deep breath, feigning a look of worried concern. "Well, I'm afraid I have some rather troubling information to share with you. It's about one of our students, Timmy, and his mother, Jenna." Mr. Garrison's brow furrowed, and he leaned forward, his interest piqued. "Go on." "You see, I've been noticing some concerning behavior from Timmy lately," Karen began, her voice laced with false sincerity. "He's been acting out in class, disrupting the other students, and I'm honestly worried that Jenna may not be providing him with the proper care and attention he needs." The principal's expression darkened, and he nodded thoughtfully. "I see. That is quite concerning. Do you have any specific examples of Timmy's behavior?" Karen seized the opportunity, rattling off a litany of fabricated incidents. Timmy taking extra snacks from the cafeteria, getting into fights with other children, and even attempting to steal school property. She painted a picture of a troubled child in desperate need of intervention, and a mother who was clearly overwhelmed and unable to cope. Mr. Garrison listened intently, his brow furrowed in concentration. "This is certainly a serious matter. I'll need to look into this further and schedule a meeting with Jenna to discuss the situation." Karen's lips curled into a triumphant smile. "Of course, Mr. Garrison. I'm so glad you're taking this seriously. I know how much you care about the well-being of our students, and I just want to do what's best for Timmy." As Karen left the principal's office, she couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. With Mr. Garrison on her side, she was confident that she could finally get rid of Jenna and her problem child, once and for all. This time, there would be no one to save them. Jenna's heart sank when she received the call from the school principal, Mr. Garrison, requesting an urgent meeting. She had been dreading this moment ever since her confrontation with Karen in the hallway, knowing that the vindictive woman would stop at nothing to try and get her and Timmy removed from the school. As Jenna sat nervously in the principal's office, Mr. Garrison's expression was unreadable. "Jenna, thank you for coming in on such short notice. I'm afraid I have some concerns that I need to discuss with you." Jenna nodded, bracing herself for the worst. "Of course, Mr. Garrison. What seems to be the problem?" The principal cleared his throat, fixing Jenna with a stern gaze. "I've received some troubling reports about Timmy's behavior in the classroom. Apparently, he's been disruptive, aggressive, and has even been caught taking extra food from the cafeteria." Jenna's eyes widened in shock. That can't be true. Timmy is a good, well-behaved boy. He would never do something like that. Mr. Garrison held up a hand, silencing her. "I understand your concern, Jenna, but the reports I've received are quite detailed. Several teachers have expressed concerns about Timmy's actions, and one parent in particular, Karen, has brought these issues to my attention." Jenna's heart sank as she realized what was happening. "Karen," she breathed, her hands clenching the armrests of the chair. "She's behind this, isn't she?" The principal nodded gravely. "I'm afraid so. Karen has been quite vocal in her concerns about Timmy's behavior and its impact on the other students. As you can imagine, this is a serious matter, and I need to get to the bottom of it." Jenna felt her stomach twist with dread. She knew Karen was vindictive, but to go so far as to fabricate stories about Timmy in order to get them expelled, it was a new low even for the scheming woman. "Mr. Garrison, please believe me when I say that Timmy is not the problem here," Jenna pleaded, her eyes shining with unshed tears. Karen has been harassing me and my son since we came to this school. She's the one who's causing all the trouble, not us. The principal's expression softened slightly, and he leaned forward, steepling his fingers on the desk. I understand your concerns, Jenna, and I'm willing to hear you out. But I do have a responsibility to address the issues that have been raised, regardless of the source. Jenna's heart sank, and she knew she had to act fast before Karen's lies destroyed everything. Please, Mr. Garrison, give me a chance to prove that Timmy is not the problem. Let me work with his teachers, and I promise you'll see a difference in his behavior. Mr. Garrison considered this for a moment, then nodded. Very well, Jenna. I'll give you 1 week to demonstrate that Timmy can adhere to the school's behavioral standards. If there are no further incidents, I'll be willing to dismiss these concerns. But if the problems persist, I'll have no choice but to take disciplinary action. Jenna let out a shaky breath of relief. Thank you, Mr. Garrison. I won't let you down, I promise. As Jenna left the principal's office, her mind was racing. She knew she had to act quickly to counteract Karen's scheming, but this time, she wasn't going to face the battle alone. Jenna rushed out of the principal's office, her mind whirling with a mix of emotions. She was furious at Karen's underhanded tactics, but she was also determined to prove that Timmy was not the problem. With the principal's ultimatum hanging over her head, she knew she had to act quickly. As she made her way down the hallway, Jenna spotted Mrs. Wilkins, the PTA president, and a wave of relief washed over her. Mrs. Wilkins, I need to talk to you. It's an emergency, Jenna said, her voice trembling. The older woman's brow furrowed with concern as she took in Jenna's distressed expression. What's wrong, dear? What happened? Jenna quickly explained the situation, watching as Mrs. Wilkins' face darkened with anger. That conniving witch, the PTA president hissed, her hands clenching into fists. I knew she wouldn't give up that easily. Jenna nodded, tears welling in her eyes. I don't know what to do, Mrs. Wilkins. If Timmy gets expelled, I don't know where we'll go. This school is the only stability he has left. Mrs. Wilkins placed a comforting hand on Jenna's shoulder. Don't worry, dear. We're not going to let Karen get away with this. This community stands with you, and we're going to fight this together. Jenna felt a surge of hope, and she squeezed the older woman's hand gratefully. Thank you, Mrs. Wilkins. I don't know what I'd do without you. The PTA president gave her a reassuring smile. That's what we're here for, Jenna. Now let's gather the troops and show Karen exactly what she's up against. Over the next few days, Mrs. Wilkins sprang into action, rallying the other PTA members and concerned parents to Jenna's cause. They flooded the principal's office with letters of support, detailing Timmy's kind nature and the positive impact he had on his classmates. They also demanded a thorough investigation into Karen's claims, citing her history of harassment and manipulation. Meanwhile, Jenna worked closely with Timmy's teachers, implementing a behavior plan and providing the extra support he needed to thrive in the classroom. The teachers were more than willing to vouch for Timmy's progress, and they expressed their full support for the single mother. When the week was up and Jenna returned to the principal's office, she was flanked by a contingent of PTA members and teachers, all ready to defend her and her son. Mr. Garrison's expression was one of surprise and, perhaps, a hint of respect. It seems, Jenna, that you've marshaled quite the support system, the principal said, glancing around the room. The teachers have all provided very positive feedback about Timmy's behavior, and the PTA has made a compelling case that Karen's accusations may have been unfounded. Jenna felt a surge of relief, but she knew the battle wasn't over yet. So, what does this mean for Timmy and me, Mr. Garrison? The principal leaned back in his chair, his expression thoughtful. Well, given the overwhelming evidence in your favor, I see no reason to take any disciplinary action against Timmy or your family. In fact, I'd like to commend you, Jenna, for your dedication and the hard work you've put in to address the concerns that were raised. Jenna felt a weight lift from her shoulders, and she couldn't help but smile. "Thank you, Mr. Garrison. I promise you won't regret this decision." As Jenna and the PTA members filed out of the office, she couldn't help but feel a sense of triumph. Karen's scheme had backfired spectacularly, and the community had rallied around her and Timmy in a way she never could have imagined. But as Jenna looked ahead to the future, she knew that this was just the beginning. Karen wouldn't give up that easily, and Jenna would have to be vigilant to protect her family. Still, with the PTA and the school's support behind her, she felt more confident than ever that they could weather any storm that came their way. Over the next few weeks, Karen seethed with resentment as she watched Jenna and Timmy thrive at Westbrook Elementary. Despite her best efforts to undermine them, the single mother and her son had managed to not only avoid expulsion, but also gain the unwavering support of the entire school community. It infuriated Karen to see Jenna volunteering in the classroom, organizing fundraisers, and even being nominated for the PTA's Parent of the Year award. How dare these people rally around her and her problem child when Karen had worked so hard to expose their supposedly sordid situation? As the weeks turned into months, Karen's obsession with taking down Jenna only grew stronger. She spent countless hours combing through school records, trying to find any shred of evidence that could be used against the single mother. But no matter how hard she tried, Jenna and Timmy's conduct remained exemplary, much to Karen's frustration. Desperate to regain her status and influence within the PTA, Karen began to lash out at the other parents, accusing them of being blinded by Jenna's sob story. She would corner unsuspecting moms in the pickup line, spewing vitriol and claiming that the school was being overrun by undesirables. But her tirades only served to further isolate her from the tight-knit community. The other parents, having witnessed Karen's cruel treatment of Jenna and Timmy, had little patience for her self-righteous posturing. They began to see her for the petty, vindictive woman she truly was, and they made it clear that her behavior would not be tolerated. One fateful day, as Karen was ranting about Jenna's manipulative tactics to a group of parents, Mrs. Wilkins approached her, her expression grave. "Karen, I think it's time we had a talk," the PTA president said, her voice laced with a subtle warning. Karen puffed out her chest, ready to launch into another tirade, but the steely look in Mrs. Wilkins' eyes gave her pause. "It's come to my attention that you've been harassing and intimidating other parents in this community. That kind of behavior is unacceptable, and I won't stand for it any longer." Karen opened her mouth to protest, but Mrs. Wilkins held up a hand, silencing her. "Furthermore, I've been made aware of your ongoing attempts to undermine Jenna and her family. I want you to know that we, as a community, stand with her and will not tolerate any further attacks." Karen's face flushed with a mix of anger and humiliation as the other parents nodded in agreement, their expressions unforgiving. "If you continue down this path, Karen, I'm afraid we'll have no choice but to remove you from the PTA altogether." Mrs. Wilkins continued, her tone brooking no argument. "This is your final warning." With that, the PTA president turned on her heel and walked away, leaving a stunned and furious Karen in her wake. As Karen watched the other parents rally around Jenna and Timmy, she realized that her once iron grip on the school's social hierarchy had been irrevocably shattered. The community had chosen their side, and it was not hers. Defeated and humiliated, Karen retreated from the school, her dreams of dominance and control reduced to ashes. Jenna and Timmy, on the other hand, continued to thrive, surrounded by the support and acceptance of their newfound family. In the end, it was Karen's own toxic behavior and sense of entitlement that had been her undoing, a cautionary tale of the power of community and the consequences of trying to shame those who are simply doing their best to survive.